matchup, so if they wanted to grab the Aatrox for themselves early on, that wouldn't surprise me a ton. There was one game played by Vizicsacsi, but this is a champion that fell through priority completely almost in yesterday's series for them.
And that also means that Yuumi is now open and available for either team to pick up if they want to. First pick priority, and it is the kitty cat.
I mean, it's always going to be the Yuumi here. For Fnatic, it's going to be the cat and the Garen down on the bottom side of the map, and that means that we're probably not going to be seeing the Xayah unless Kobbe wants to take that here. I would love to see him grab that third rotation here, but if they decide to go for something else, they're going to lose their opportunity to pick that up. Of course, you do want to have usually kill lanes around that Garen and that Yuumi. You can punish it early on in the laning phase, but I think Splyce as a team would maybe be a team that doesn't like to do that. Would go for more like mid-game fighting options and do it instead.
What would you like to see as a counter to it? Because obviously Splyce knew this was coming, right? By banning the Akali and not the Yuumi.
So it's really difficult because I don't think we've actually seen a very reliable counter into it. I personally love the Poppy in the bottom lane as a support option because it absolutely just slams Yuumi. Every time she pops out, you instantly can jump on her and really punish her super easily. But of course, that is assuming that Splyce do want to go for that kill 2 versus 2. And if that is the case, then we would probably be seeing, we're seeing the kill 2v2, I like it.
So what do you put in support with Vayne?
I mean, I think Norskeren would love to have something like the Nautilus once more for him. The Thresh is also another pick they could go for down in that bottom lane. Those are sort of the two most played options for Norskeren if you do like to play around this lane. But again, Vayne's an interesting one because usually Vayne, you think late game scaling. That's definitely the case. But also one item with that Blade of the Ruined King, she becomes very, very strong. And with her true damage on her W, going to be very effective in the later game fights up against this Garen. Usually the problem with Garen is that you can never kill him later in the game, so you must attack him 2v2. Instead, they could just say, hey, actually, if we put a Corki in the mid lane next to this, we have some scaling, we have some, consistent DPS to fight against you.
Ooh, very, very intriguing. One of the things I do like about Splyce, the support staff, their preparation, their ability to read opponents is something that has defined this team for a very long time. When given enough time and enough planning, they can come up with creative solutions to take down their opponents, and I want to see if they can do it today. If they can shut down Fnatic's Yuumi Garen.
So I want to see a Corki ban coming through from Splyce. I think it's almost guaranteed that Nemesis wants to pick that one up if it is left open, because you have a Gangplank in the top lane and a Garen down bottom lane. You usually need some sort of marksman threat here. Fnatic, when they run the Garen down bot side, they almost always look for the AD Twisted Fate or the Corki for themselves. Could also be that Splyce choose to grab that for Humanoid and slot the jungle pick with the Sylas in there for Xerxe. He does love that champion, so wouldn't be too far out of this world for me.
Well, we're about to find out in a second or two. Trundle is the last ban here from Fnatic's side. Another pick that I wasn't quite prepared for.
So now I'm thinking, is it Sejuani time for Broxah? Because that's usually the go-to answer up against it.
Now, is this Lulu support?
I think it's actually, so Splyce have a really interesting strategy into Fnatic, I believe, if this is going to be Lulu down bottom lane. This is not going to be about killing you in the 2 versus 2. With a ranged support, that does mean you do have some push threat, you have some poke threat inside of lane. This is going to be Ardent Sensor time. We're going to match scaling with scaling here for Splyce, and as long as they have the abilities to force fights against Fnatic, they should have a really meaty, just tank shredder with this Vayne.
And we get another Nocturne, stealing this one away from Xerxe, who played it so well yesterday. And as you mentioned, the Lulu plus Vayne combination is terrifying. Help picks, as well as Glitterlance, just going to allow him to stick to absolutely anybody. And now the response here from Nemesis, if he wants to pick up that AP threat, which is something you were talking about, is going to be the Cassiopeia locked into the mid lane. And I think you'll be pretty comfortable sort of if it's the Sylas or the Corki, which is what we were talking about earlier.
Right, and when I was saying Corki for Nemesis in the mid lane, that was more like team composition goals defining here.
Yes.
For Fnatic, Cassiopeia can fill a very similar role, magic damage, consistent DPS with the Twin Fangs. Even though it's not necessarily an auto attack, it still definitely adds up over the course of the fight. And it's just going to be Throwback City here. We said we were going scaling for Splyce, we're going even harder.
Oh man, this is going to be very, very interesting. And of course, the Emperor's Divide is going to be so valuable in getting rid of Garen in your face in the team fights. This is the first ever Lulu that we have seen on Norskeren in professional play. And now if we step back and look at the two team compositions, what are your expectations for the 5-man squads.
Well, I feel like Fnatic really need to use this Nocturne to get the ball rolling, you know, around the level 6 mark for him. Early on, not a lot of options for them to go for. But when we consider late game team fights, it's so easy for Splyce to just push Fnatic away from them. Splyce have the range advantage. They have the displacements with the Azir as well as the Condemn from Vayne. It becomes very hard for Fnatic to team fight later on, even with the Cassiopeia. So I think mid game is where they must live.
Oh, and of course, thinking about the Sylas ultimates to steal, you've got engage tools, you've got AoE slows and stuns, or roots rather, from the Yuumi. So there's a lot of options here for Xerxe to play with as well. And let's see how well Splyce can do in game 2. Now, to set some expectations, we were a little disappointed in Splyce in game 1. Fnatic played a little sloppy. They got caught out of position. It's very clear that they were not as focused as they were against G2, and yet they still dispatched Splyce in the mid to late game with what seemed like ease.
Yeah, and that's been the conversation around Europe for so long now that they feel like fans feel there is this gap between G2, Fnatic, and then the rest of the league. Today for Splyce is about competing with Fnatic, putting their best foot forward and making a case for themselves to be strong players in Worlds.
And now we need to see how they bounce back. There was a lot of kills traded, obviously, punishing those mistakes from Fnatic. And with the Cassiopeia and Nemesis' hands, and now Rekkles and Hilly definitely pivoting how they're going to play. We get to see how this Garen Yuumi's going to do into the Lulu Vayne. Let's talk about the early sort of laning expectations. Obviously, Kobbe and Norskeren should have a comfortable-ish time harassing and poking them down during the early levels.
Right, and you know, of course, that's going to come from having double range, but I like this even more because you have this range support. You can go for this Spell Thief's Edge. It's really easy to proc that when you're playing against a melee AD carry, or a melee bot laner in this case, which is going to be Rekkles, because literally every time he goes up to last hit, he's going to get hit by auto attacks, he's going to get slowed down, he's going to take a lot of damage, so it's going to make it a lot harder for Rekkles to actually farm in this lane. And usually Garens are pretty comfortable walking forward and taking those trades of HP for CS because of the passive. The Perseverance gives him a lot of HP regen in a lot of 2 versus 2s, but that's going to be much harder, I think, against a Vayne Lulu setup.
I'm excited to see how this works out. Garen Yuumi has been something that Fnatic have played several times. It's kind of become like a flavor of European playoffs, so to speak. It's been very pivotal across the board. I mean, Rogue actually used it to defeat Splyce as well, if I recall correctly. So it's no wonder Splyce went back to the drawing board and went, right, how do we stop this? We know we're likely to face Fnatic at some stage in the regional qualifiers. And the answer that they put together is obviously this Vayne Lulu combination. The Prowling projectile early. There's a little bit of trade. Kobbe and Norskeren playing a little defensively in the first wave.
So one of the interesting questions when you play against a Yuumi in that bottom lane is, do you focus the bot laner or do you focus the Yuumi? Because Yuumi can always just go into your bot laner, and it doesn't matter how little HP she has. And that's why I was sort of looking at this Norskeren trading into the Yuumi at level 1, skilling up the E for that free damage. But one of the things you can do if you do poke down this Yuumi is you force her to either use her heals on herself, or you force her to just stay inside of her ally. And when she's inside of her ally, especially in these early levels, the Q cooldown is really, really long. That's gonna be around 13 seconds, so you want to be able to have those auto attacks to fight back in the 2v2.
I remember when we first started casting Yuumi, we actually played a mini game of like rating players' abilities to hop in and out of their bot laner to trade and put damage down. And look at this, Kobbe and Norskeren shoving the wave in. Just a quick stat for you guys. Kobbe is undefeated on Vayne in his professional career, 7-0.
Well, all great things have to come to an end, Quickshot.
We will find out in the next little while. Broxah and Bwipo going to be double teaming Vizicsacsi now. Got a very big minion wave with that cannon as well. Going to get feared up. Bwipo will eat the oranges and step back. One more auto will do it, but Broxah just flashes out of range. And look at how many minions are going to be denied.
That was a clean tower dive right there from Fnatic. Bwipo held on to the oranges for so long right there to eat an extra tower shot. And then Broxah, you notice he didn't actually redraw aggro. He waited until he was in auto attack range so he could then get that final kill on towards Chachi and flash away.
Yeah, really nicely done. Death time is actually so incredibly low. Chachi was able to TP back and will pick up a fair amount of the experience from that wave. but he's still down 7 CS already.
It's going to be tough for Chachi up here, especially I think Gangplank early levels especially going to be a very good matchup into that Aatrox. But also if you went back to level 1, it was just a really nice setup from Fnatic right here. We'll look at the replay first because it is Bwipo. We mentioned draws aggro off the start, just burns him with that passive, but then eats that extra tower shot. Then Broxah's like, wait, okay, auto attack, now I'm close enough to escape, and I can hop on out of here. But one thing I do want to remind you of is at level 1, Bwipo walked into the enemy jungle and put a ward on top of Xerxe's Krugs, which saw him go for the standard path where he went red buff into the Krugs down towards bot side, so Fnatic knew he wasn't going to be there.
That is so much damage. Noxious Blast into Twin Fangs. And thank you so much for the summary of the early game warding. I absolutely was not looking at the minimap.
You're very welcome.
I was very excited about the 2v2 in the bot lane. And as it stands, Kobbe, 32 CS to the 12 of Rekkles, as sort of expected in this ranged duo. And we'll see how many of the sort of 2 waves in front of Rekkles he can pick up.
I think even the other big difference we're going to have to watch for is the turret plates, because that's one thing we didn't talk about, was having 2 range characters means you're going to be able to access those a whole lot easier, and there's nothing Rekkles can really do to clear away the minion waves. If he ever wants to walk into the wave to use his E and spin around and try to clear any of those minions, he's going to take a whole lot of damage, so it ends up being that Splyce have now picked up 320 gold total off those 2 plates.
And they are staying even, despite conceding first blood. It is even as far as the gold is concerned. Humanoid, small CS advantage in the mid lane, and obviously Chachi was the recipient of that first gank, so he is in fact behind Bwipo right now. This is already a decent enough start, and Kobbe's going to be the man that I'm going to be watching as the game plays out, and whether or not this Vayne will be pivotal in shutting down the Garen Yuumi combination.
Definitely going to be the case as another trade goes down, but Norskeren pretty low on mana, shouldn't be able to do too much here, and I think Rekkles and crew realize that is mid lane.
Yeah, Nemesis is in trouble, not level 6 yet. Here comes Broxah though. Duskbringer tags up Xerxe, and that was Humanoid with a very quick engage the moment he hit level 6.
Yeah, really wanted to find that play. Unable to burn the flash off of Nemesis, but Nemesis will very likely, he's going to stick around in this lane, but he's not going to be too happy with it. Only has the refillable potion, so it's not going to be the corrupting and the biscuits on the other side to match.
Ooh, Bwipo takes a turret shot and is trading with Chachi. He is level 6 as well. And Nemesis has stuck around in lane, taking a lot of damage from Humanoid.
So one of the struggles that Nemesis is facing inside of the laning phase is that he doesn't spec into Inspiration when he is playing this Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia almost always is going to go for Domination second, and that's going to be primarily for the rune Ravenous Hunter, getting that basically spell vamp off of your abilities when you're already getting it off of your Twin Fangs. Adds up to a lot of healing in the mid to late game once you are able to fully stack that by killing those unique targets over on the side of Splyce. So while he will suffer in the laning phase right now, that is what allows him to play so aggressively and be so beastly in those later on fights.
What's going to be so helpful for Splyce, for the laning phase at least, this very early Ocean Drake. 7 minutes on the board, going to allow all of these lanes just to stick around all that much longer. And I'll try to counteract some of the tools in the Fnatic kit. So early Drake again, I think Xerxe picked up the Infernal Drake first in the previous game. Definitely get a little bit more control over that objective so far.
And you'll notice gold doing all right for Fnatic so far in this game because of that first blood going on towards Broxah. That top side of the map is winning out, and you can see Bwipo pushing in throughout the majority of this game. Now that he has hit level 6 as well, it becomes a whole lot more difficult for Splyce to set up a play on the bottom side of the map. But that's exactly what I'm looking at Fnatic to do themselves, because now that Broxah has hit his level 6 mark himself, that's those double globals. Now, mid lane, bot lane, Fnatic can try to search for these fights, and once Yuumi hits level 6, it's very easy to just run up and lock down a Vayne or a Lulu.
Yeah, the Cannon Barrage plus Paranoia equals dead Yordle if Norskeren is the target. Flashes are available for both Kobbe and Norskeren, and Rekkles and Hilly also getting close to their ultimates. But the teleport was just used by Bwipo to return to the top lane. Chachi yet to recall at the moment, and his will be available earlier. So got to keep track of those timings and see whether or not an engaged bottom will be pivotal. The Condemned just missing, knocking Rekkles into the wall and getting that small stun as Bwipo and Chachi continue to trade. This has been a pretty aggressive lane. Both top laners, actually game 1 and game 2, very willing to fight and trade and contest.
Yeah, Broxah hanging around this mid lane, waiting for that Paranoia to come down. Humanoid does have his ultimate though, so it should be easy to knock him back. Both junglers have the exact same idea right now. This is absolutely insane. Broxah's gonna go in, and they instantly delete Humanoid. Xerxe just a bystander as his mid laner falls.
He could do nothing to watch because it was darkness. While that's going on, Cannon Barrage was thrown down, and Kobbe throws out the ultimate and the flash. That is already a victory because Broxah's Paranoia will come back sooner and they can look to take him out. Continue trading in the top lane. Bwipo and Chachi are chasing, fighting back and forth. World Ender keeps Chachi up and alive as Bwipo eats an orange, throws down a parlay. There's the flash engage, knocking back and forth. Traded flash for Bwipo. Chachi's on the run. And nobody's died just yet.
You can start to see there's a lot of outplay in this match when flashes are up. But without it, Bwipo just outstats Vizicsacsi. Also, he went for that Executioner's Culling, so cutting down the healing substantially from Chachi. And with the burn from both his passive as well as the Corrupting Potion, these long-form trades for Bwipo are always going to favor him. He can also back away out of these fights, pop an orange, and keep his health bar topped off.
Man, 2-0 on Broxah's Nocturne. The trades from Bwipo after being helped by Broxah for first blood is allowing to take some charge in the top lane. Now Kobbe's looking to chase down Rekkles and Hilly. Gets the Silver Bolt proc, chunks him out a little, but that heal from the Yuumi as well as the passive from Garen will help out. Now here's the bait. Broxah's made his way up. Tag Chachi with the Duskbringer, flashes forward, barrels are thrown down, and with the fear, that's the hat-trick for Broxah.
Broxah's just been the better jungler to this game, all over the map right now, not willing to slow down. Even without the ultimate, he's making that play, he's flashing forward aggressively, and now the Paranoia has returned. So once Nemesis, he has his ulti back up too, they can once again look for this play around the middle lane. And this time, Xerxe better be, able to see Humanoid, otherwise it's just gonna be an instant kill once again.
And I think this is what people were expecting from Fnatic versus Splyce in game 1. It's very clearly Fnatic making better plays early. Flash Petrifying Gaze into the Paranoia. Now there is support from Xerxe, and that will be just enough to make Nemesis and Broxah back away, trading ultimate and flash in the mid lane.
So now Splyce just gonna walk inside of Fnatic's jungle, steals the Paranoia, actually going forward. There is Xerxe, but can he find him over the wall?
Oh, not just yet! The Emperor's Divide not gonna get needed. Xerxe actually flashed over. Now here comes Nemesis. Miasma goes out. Humanoid sends the Sand Soldiers forward, and Xerxe will be able to dash to safety.
Rekkles and Hylissang on the way right there, trying to punish, but Splyce, they go in right there. I loved seeing that snap call from Xerxe, not willing to get pushed around any longer right there and able to trade back.
Exceptional barrel mechanics from Bwipo. Managed to get some additional damage onto Chachi. He's still 12 CS up, got 2 assists to his name and the Sheen. And Splyce, they were able to pick up a very good kill. It was Humanoid that secured the final hit. But it was all set from Xerxe, stealing that Paranoia away, diving onto Broxah, and then again diving into the base. But he made it work, and while that continues to play out, the bottom lane is just continuing to trade. Norskeren on his first ever Lulu having a little bit of fun.
Basically just standing still while Hylissang is trying to bend the skill shot around and try to hit him. Oh man, that champion. But sometimes it is interesting seeing this bottom lane now that Rekkles and Hylissang have been able to stabilize for the most part. Was Xerxe coming towards the top lane.
All right, no teleports on Fnatic, no Paranoia for Broxah. Bwipo's got the Cannon Barrage, and he's gonna throw it down, turns onto Chachi. Not gonna be able to. Manages actually to trade it 1-for-1. I thought Chachi was gonna stay alive, and eventually Xerxe trades it. Now all of a sudden, Broxah and Nemesis, do they want round 2? No Paranoia up, and Humanoid too healthy for that one. So Chachi, 0-3-1. Aatrox not going so good.
No, he's definitely struggling right there. The trade-off Splyce have made for their top laner and jungler both falling behind actually is that mid lane and bot lane doing quite well at the moment. But actually, bot lane gold has stabilized because Hylissang is getting so much money both from his own spell thieves as well as the relic shield from Rekkles. They've been able to make a lot of money themselves. They haven't actually lost any more turret plates ever since they went back to base, so it's just the 2 going over towards Splyce. And now, with Garen at level 8, he can walk up. He's tanky enough that no longer can Kobbe actually threaten him on this minion wave. He can instantly clear, and if Kobbe and Norskeren ever step too close, they're instantly going to find Yuumi with that lost chapter locking them down, and they're going to be in some hurt.
Yeah, definitely going to be very interesting to see the next few minutes. Kobbe's flash is just about available. A few seconds longer, and I actually feel like this Mountain Drake is probably a little more important for Fnatic than other team compositions, because taking towers with this comp is going to be very difficult. You have to have enemies of Splyce dead before you can step up, because they are so heavily outranged.
I think it's also really important for Fnatic too to find it, to be able to threaten early Baron buffs, because we talked about some of the scaling options. While I don't think Fnatic get absolutely slaughtered in the late game, I do think it becomes much more difficult for them unless they're able to find multiple targets from Splyce split off. So being able to take control over the mid game by starting up that Baron and turning right around on towards Splyce is going to be very important.
All right, Paranoia comes down. Remember that flash cooldown we talked about? It's just used again. Norskeren manages to escape for now, and Rekkles with the ultimate picks up a kill. Prowling projectile tags onto Norskeren. There's an ultimate stolen from Xerxe on Garen for now. Judgment is being thrown onto Xerxe. He's got 1,000 HP left. Bwipo stepping forward, not going to find the barrel this time round. And the TP was committed, while Humanoid takes a parlay to the face, and that Mountain Drake is the focus for now.
Yeah, it's easy for Fnatic to turn towards that objective at the same time. While Chachi is trading turret shots on the top lane, Nemesis also free firing in the mids, going very well here for the side of Fnatic, and now they can continue to pressure around this bottom side of the map. There's only one cooldown that Fnatic really rely on to force fights against Kobbe and Norskeren, and that's going to be the Lost Chapter in the 2v2. Then you add on the Paranoia on top of that. Yeah. That's going to be kills every single time now that both flashes have gone down.
Well, that's very, very good engage for Fnatic. They extend that gold lead once again to around 1,000. They got the first dragon. They lost, I think, 2 plates up top. Let's see just how many. But now Norskeren will find himself running into Bwipo. Blast Cone will buy some time, but Bwipo stuck around after the dragon. Fouling projectile misses its target, and one more auto should do it. Norskeren.
There's nowhere to go.
But the 6th kill of the game, the 2nd for Bwipo, and Fnatic are absolutely in control.
All too common sight right there. Norskeren finding himself without any teammates nearby and getting punished for it. So Splyce decide, let's trade on the top side of the map. They feel like they need to put some pressure on the opposite side after losing Norskeren, so they teleport Kobbe on in. Humanoid also pushing in the mid lane. So I actually think this is quite a good trade for Splyce. Yes, they lose that bottom lane turret. That was already going to happen. And now with that mid lane down and the Herald, they can slot that straight up into the top lane and try to get some money over towards their carry.
And I think they're going to need to find some ways to get Vizicsacsi more relevant in this game, because the Lulu Vayne seems to have done fairly well against Rekkles Hylissang on the Garen Yuumi. But Aatrox was so obliterated in the top lane. It's Rekkles and Hilly, they were considering a dive. Broxah's got Paranoia. He's instantly going to throw it down into Xerxe. This is turning into a pretty big skirmish. Teleport will come down from Vizicsacsi, and all of a sudden Nemesis is roaming up as well. It ends up fizzling into nothing.
Yeah, so Splyce really wanted to force that fight because they know Bwipo has no TP after responding to come down bottom side himself. But Fnatic way too easily just back away off of that fight. So that means Bwipo gets to fully push that wave down towards that bottom side, deny some more minions away from the Splyce lineup, and get some shots down himself. This is, you know, a global ultimate traded for a teleport. That's a much lower cooldown burnt from Broxah.
Yep, damage on that inner turret. It's still a 2,000 gold lead for Fnatic, and Broxah's not done yet. We'll move into this top push to clear out the ward. I want to see what Kobbe and Norskeren do, but the point I was trying to bring up was the focus in draft around sort of handling and controlling Garen Yuumi seemed to be bot, but the playstyle decision-making from Fnatic have absolutely put Vizicsacsi behind. Look, no big items completed, and Bwipo's already sitting on that Trinity Force, and 2-1 and 2. He's in a very comfortable position going into the mid-game. Probably fancies himself shot here. This is what you were talking about in draft, though, and the Vayne into Garen could be a good pick.
Yeah, and I like it, too, with the Lulu speed up offering the W as well, because it means that Kobbe can actually follow up and chase Garen down through these lanes. It's always something they have to look out for, though, because, again, no flashes on these two players. And right now, Xerxe is walking over a whole lot of vision inside the river. He knows he's seen. He's walking over that shrine. He just wants to help push out this wave, and nice some of the vision away from Fnatic here.
All right, no cannon barrage for Bwipo or teleport. Nemesis is down in the bottom lane. Humanoid, with the help of that Sun Disc, will be putting a lot of damage onto Bwipo. Winning for the time being. Paranoia was now thrown into the top lane. That's an engage, and that's already a dead Norskeren. Kobbe also gets tagged by the last little bit of stun there from Hylissang. Now the turnaround. Xerxe steals away the Paranoia. All of a sudden, Demacian Judgment comes down. Do they fancy a tower dive? Xerxe's got a lot of damage to put out, and Rekkles, after being shut down in the laning phase, is now 3-0, and Bwipo just ints I'm looking at him on stage. He is as flabbergasted as we are.
What is happening right now? I was just about to talk about that top lane fight, and all of a sudden Humanoid just keeps pushing in that middle lane. This is actually a classic problem from Splyce, I feel. They try to play League of Legends by the book. They see Humanoid pushed all the way up that mid lane. Surely they can run down instead. Now Nemesis going deep down in that bottom lane, turns around onto Xerxe.
Damage! He's going to look for Xerxe as well. Throws out the shield. Twin Fang, 1 or 2 more needed. Not enough this time.
Unreal. Both mid laners pulling these off in separate lanes by themselves. To go back to what I was saying, Splyce, they had this mid lane all the way pushed up. So they think if you have mid lane priority, that's the first step, right? That means you can run between the lanes because you can always rotate first. Fnatic don't play by the book, though. They have the global ultimates. They force that fight right onto those 3 members. So even though Splyce did have the shove lead, they still could not react fast enough to that quick engage from Fnatic.
Oh, really nicely done. So Garen, as you mentioned, Black Cleaver picked up 3-0. Broxah is Nocturne. He was 3-0. To start out the game, now 3-2-3. And Nemesis's Cassio is once again activated. It's already a threat, but I want to see how well Humanoid and Splyce can play out these next few minutes. They're only 2,000 gold down at 20, but it doesn't feel like that small. It feels like Fnatic are further ahead with their play and the decision-making in game.
And I think it's going to continue to feel that way because whenever you have Garen and Yuumi on the same team, when they get ahead, they force you out of your jungle because they don't really rely on these big cooldowns, as you were saying. They can just run at you. They're so tanky. It's very hard to make a mistake with this duo, so they can very easily take control over the river. And on top of that, you have 2 support items. That means double the amount of typical wards. It's top lane.
Yeah, that's going to be a dead Bwipo. He's going to get run down by Kobbe. Chachi's the one that picks up the kill. Now, trading a kill for the Mountain Drake and the second Mountain for Fnatic, I think they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, so this is a play Bwipo knew was going to happen, right? This is very much, he is willing to trade, you know, a death for that objective on that bottom side of the map. And you look at what do Splyce get off of that play. They get some money off of Bwipo, sure, they can be happy with that, but they're not really going to get much more in terms of objectives. It looks like Chachi's going to push out that top lane, and then Fnatic have the option to try and send members over to defend.
So we do have a couple of moments before the next potential skirmish here. One of the things I would like to just touch about, well, as I say that, Nemesis is looking to kill Humanoid. No flash for Nemesis. Support from Rekkles and Hilly as the Luden's Echo on the Prowling projectiles putting some damage down. But he's just not talking a little bit about, you know, this particular match and the changes to regional qualifier this year. Obviously, championship points are used to guarantee you make it to Worlds. And now, we get to see which team is in better form, is in better shape, and on the current meta, which is most likely what's going to be played at Worlds.
Well, it's funny too, right? Because typically we consider, you know, most major regions, the 3rd seed they send to Worlds is usually better than the 2nd seed. You know, you remember like the 100 Thieves situation in the past, and a lot of these other situations.
G2 last year.
Right, exactly. So this is going to mean the best team right now is going to be the 2nd seed. Fnatic, they want to say that and they want to start the Baron.
Remember, double Mountain plus Cassio. By the time they get Vision, I think Baron is down. Already secured. Teleport from Humanoid thrown out as well, but it is too late. The amount of damage with double Mountain in the pit means Fnatic just melt that objective.
So if you weren't sold when Bwipo, you know, killed himself in the top lane to secure that second Mountain Drake for his team, you should be now. Because this is exactly what we said Fnatic were looking for. A very early Mountain Drake to extend their lead before Splyce could get the levels and the items under the belt to just win out in teamfights.
And this is what Fnatic are looking for to win the game, because it's difficult taking towers with such a short-range composition. When you have double Mountain, you have Baron Pound minions, when you can play multiple side lanes, like who's going to go toe-to-toe with Cassio, right? It's a difficult question to answer. And this is kind of what I think Fnatic fans were anticipating and expecting from the team coming into the series.
It's the cleaner close, right? Of course, we know Fnatic games can sometimes get messy, but in game 1, there were just a ton of uncharacteristic mistakes. We have not really seen that in game number 2. Here is, when we talk about sieges, you always have to remember the Garen Yuumi poke, absolutely massive.
All right, Cannon Barrage comes down there, and feels like Fnatic want to fight. They're looking for a way to start it. But the final chapter from Yuumi has been held on cooldown, and there was no paranoia. I just noticed that. It is available now, though.
Can they turn it and use it for a fight? Don't think that's going to be the case here unless it is a collapse on that bottom side. Chachi is pushing up a little bit too far forward, I feel like. And because Rekkles is so tanky, you can actually walk into the jungle and zone Humanoid away from this mid lane tower. Fnatic really want to secure that mid lane tower, and if they can move multiple members down bottom lane, they should be able to pick it up.
Fnatic are fishing. They are just looking for a target to hook. and jump onto. And for the time being, Splyce are just on the edge of safety. Nobody gets engaged on, but it's a lot of damage. The jungle camps are not cleared out. Fnatic are still pushing forward.
And the problem for Fnatic is the timings were just a little bit off right there, because ideally for Fnatic, what you want to do is you want to fully push that bottom wave and then move both Broxah and Bwipo over towards mid and threaten a potential dive with the numbers advantage, Xerxe.
Well, Xerxe stole away the Petrifying Gaze earlier, dashed forward, was unable to find himself the stun, and look at the minimap. Nemesis is up in the top lane. Xerxe is going to get locked down after reading the Kitty Cat's book. And nobody goes down just yet. Paranoia has been thrown on. The target is Chachi. He's already flashed, but this should unlock the top inner and maybe mid outer turret at the same time.
Yeah, this is what we were waiting for in the bottom lane. Humanoid was there, though, to back up Vizicsacsi. This time, the same could not be said. The play was delayed for a little while by Splyce, but now Fnatic get everything. Mid falls, top lane falls, Fnatic can then back up. Oh, Hylissang, a little bit of trouble, but he is playing that Yuumi can get out away. But now Fnatic have everything and deep vision on top of it.
They already got themselves 2 towers. They push the lead to 5,000 gold. And with the empowered recalls, Fnatic can start backing away. They escape, and Broxah and Nemesis are left alone. But he could get collapsed on. Not just yet. Does he get the 1v1?
I mean, he absolutely gets the 1v1. There's no ult, there's no flash on Vizicsacsi. 2-level lead for Nemesis as well. He should just go back to base now and finish off as much of the Leandries as he can. Don't know how much he's sitting on. 2,300. Don't think that's quite enough to complete it himself, but should be looking very strong coming into the coming fights, because on this Cassiopeia, it's so easy to stack that item up to get that burn damage increase over time that just amps everything you do. And as the primary carry on Fnatic's side, Splyce have to consider just how much this guy can deal out in a 5v5.
Yep, and also don't forget that he can be backed up by that Yuumi as well. So add Petrifying Gaze plus Final Chapter, and that is a very scary snake. Just for the next fight, did you see the Reddit thread about scientific reasons champions can or cannot wear boots? Came up a couple days ago, and it started with Cassiopeia. Very highly recommended. As Nemesis flashes forward, gets the Petrifying Gaze, and Splyce are absolutely obliterated.
That's just a massacre in the mid lane. I guess they got Nemesis, guys, but that is not going to be enough. The Baron buff has run out for Fnatic, but they can just charge down the mid lane for the inhib.
Nemesis this year is probably the most impressive improvement that I've ever seen out of a player in a single year. Considering how he and Fnatic started to how he is currently playing. Nemesis is a guy that solo killed Caps last weekend, has developed and increased champion pool effectiveness with the squad, and is now a legitimate mid laner to be feared across the world.
You absolutely must here. The rest of Fnatic, even with him falling down, charging and just blasting through the Splyce base. Let's play this one more time, because it is Nemesis who starts off the play. He sees those guys facing towards him. That's a double stun and 1 slow right there. It's the instant shutdown on towards Humanoid. And yes, Kobbe survives, but there's not a whole lot he can do. Blow for blow against Fnatic team, Vayne cannot hold up.
2 kills there quickly for Bwipo, as well as the Nemesis Petrifying Gaze. I mean, it's very, very good play. This is what you expect from a team that pushed G2 to 5 games, a team that is looking to pick up the 2nd seed, go straight into the group stage at Worlds. And it's just giving us a little bit of a taste of what we can anticipate from both Fnatic and Splyce.
It definitely felt like Fnatic refocused coming out of that game 1. You know, we know that series against G2 had to have been incredibly taxing for this squad. I know they maybe took a couple days off coming back from Athens as well, and we're watching the regional qualifiers from home before showing up on the day. So game 1 was just shaking all the rust out. Now game 2 seems much more methodical from this Fnatic side.
And of course for Splyce, what do? How do they keep their hopes alive? This game does not feel particularly winnable right now. But there is a Baron being set up, and Splyce are TPing in.
Yeah, it starts with stopping this Baron right here. Humanoid is huge right now. Level 17 on the pick, enough to force Fnatic off of this Baron. But mid lane, there's super minions running down that lane. There's 2 teleports on the side of Fnatic. 3 if you count Yuumi. They're just going to go for the end.
Yeah, they're going to look for the finish. Teleport is going forward. Remember, double Mountain Drake is going to be so powerful. Paranoia is buying some time. There was a recall as Kobbe's looking to stop it down. All of a sudden, Humanoid is out. Xerxe's in the pit, and Xerxe's down. Baron is secured by the cat of Hylissang. Nemesis will go golden for now. Needs a little bit more poison. Kobbe's taken out. Nemesis stays alive, but finally shut down by Vizicsacsi. Rekkles is spinning to win, and Hylissang is on the Nexus. You and Me jumps inside of Rekkles. Judgment is being thrown as well as Demacian Justice. Vizicsacsi 3-5-1. This Aatrox was simply not enough. The rest of Fnatic rock up, and they will take the series 2-0 for now, and are 1 win away from guaranteeing the group stage.
A much stronger look coming through from Fnatic in game number 2, and they end it with a little bit of style right there. They put Splyce in a lose-lose situation. Fight us at Baron, you're gonna lose your base. Go back to the base, you lose the Baron, and surely the game. These are the decisions that we expect out of a Worlds caliber team, and that's just what we got, Quickshot.
It is very, very early to say what I'm about to say, but the player of the game, player of the series nomination should be Nemesis, Nemesis, and Nemesis. He is playing fantastically. But I do have to give a lot of credit to the rest of the team as well. They shook off the game 1 mistakes. Despite Rekkles and Hilly being really bullied and beaten up early, they did not concede enough to make that Vayne a threat to be worried about.
And at the same time, while that bottom lane was neutralizing as best as they could, top lane absolutely smashed. Broxah's early game performance on this Nocturne was absolutely fantastic after finding the tower dive in the top lane, the kill in the mid lane, returning back top lane, and that perfect execution on the tower dive. Yep. It was just really beautiful to see from them.
It really, really was. And you know, we do talk a lot about the drain on Fnatic after going to Athens, after forcing G2 to a second game 5. But also put yourself in Splyce's shoes. They have played 3 best-of-5s across 3 days against 3 distinctly different teams. And the expectation was that Fnatic were 1 step too far. And I think we are seeing that so far this series. They're not done and dusted yet if they can find some recipe in game 3 to extend the series. But you would still anticipate Fnatic are just the stronger team right now.
I think what we'd all love to see in game number 3 is Fnatic looking good in the early game and Splyce competing with them there as well. That's what this day is all about. It's about Splyce putting forward a strong foot and proving that they are a force to be reckoned with at Worlds. And I think we're waiting to see that fully come to fruition so far.
Well, let's see. Splyce potentially only have 1 more chance. Let's find out exactly how Fnatic won game 2.
Well, they picked Garen and Yuumi, and that's it. Let's take a break. No, just kidding, of course. But the Garen and Yuumi, we saw it at the end, was pretty powerful. And when we look at picks and bans, Mickey, what do you think about the Vayne Lulu answer, possibly, to Garen and Yuumi?
I mean, I think Vayne is a good answer to Garen Yuumi. It's just that Fnatic has probably played against Vayne before in scrims, so they have a good way to punish it with Nocturne and Cassio. I think they're both pretty good against Vayne. So for example, Yuumi, Nocturne, just both press R when Nocturne goes on Vayne, and the Vayne is like, it's really hard to outplay it. And yeah, I think also Splyce could have just picked GP instead of Aatrox. Not the biggest fan of Vizicacsi's Aatrox, but his GP is pretty good, so they should probably go for that. Yeah.
Yeah, Yamato, you had something to say about the top lane.
I feel like it's official. Vizicacsi is a Gangplank one trick. Honestly, he looks like a complete different person because with the way Splyce played, they leave him on an island, and Gangplank is a pirate, likes to visit islands, I think, in some fairy tale, and the Gangplank ult, he can pressure the map, but this time around he's on the Aatrox, and on that island he doesn't have a good time because he didn't bring sunscreen or something.
It's 2 different mentalities. It's trying to deny Fnatic their picks versus picking for your own comfort. And unfortunately, Chachi got the short end of the stick. He picked the Aatrox, they tried to deny it away from Bwipo. Bwipo is fine playing both sides of this matchup, he's done it multiple times, and then they just punished Chachi repeatedly, has one of the highest isolated deaths of any of our top laners in the league. And to be fair, he is left on an island. It's not like Splyce give him a lot of resources, which is also why I think a champion like Gangplank really suits to his strengths. You can leave him alone on the island. You don't need to invest resources into that, and he can still be so impactful in team fights and cross-map plays.
So I wonder if we were talking so much about this whole meta that developed between Splyce and the teams they played in the Gauntlet, and we said it's so different from anything else, and Aatrox was so noticeably absent. Perhaps this is also Splyce saying, well, hey, we're going to have to play this champion when we go into Worlds, most likely, or we're going to have to be a bit more flexible in the top lane, so maybe they were just trying it for Chachi?
I think what they tried to do in this game was just to try to fire some kind of curveball at Fnatic.
Yeah.
They left the Yuumi open. They could have also just banned it, given up an Aatrox first pick, could have taken the Gangplank side. I think they're just trying to figure out ways to confuse Fnatic. But I think, with that being said, it's very clear. I think Splyce also know that they are mismatched in this particular matchup. So I think it's it's a way to try to make things a bit more messy.
It is. Mickey, do you have any advice for Splyce? Because they're, of course, 0-2 down now. What else could they try?
I mean, I think they should probably try to get Vizicsacsi and GP. For bot lane, I mean, I think it was a fine try. I mean, I'm not so sure how good Lulu is, but like Vayne is a decent answer into Garen. I think just second phase probably they should have banned Cassio instead of Syndra, because Nemesis didn't really play Syndra yet, but he did play Cassio.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure. They should like probably get some higher priority on GP.
I also think that we're kind of coming into a point where Splyce aren't necessarily doing the best they can in early game. You heard Ender talk about it at the end of that cast, but I think they've kind of stabilized it. They're not bleeding out, but they can't play the whole map to the same extent that Fnatic can. And what's curious to me about Fnatic is that, not curious, but kind of cool, is that even with a champion like Cassiopeia, they love to play Cassie inside lane. You saw the damage that Nemesis can do in duels. We know that Cassiopeia is actually a great dueling champion, but because she's has to overextend, you normally don't see her up there. And Fnatic are doing a good job constantly pairing her with champions that if people do go in on her, they have other tools that can follow up. And Splyce need to figure out some way to break this, because this is now the third time, I think, in a row that Fnatic have run Cassio side lane into Splyce, where the map opens up and they can't do anything. And Nemesis is now 1v2ing for a portion of that game, and Splyce have no answer.
Yeah, they did it also in the regular season. That's why you say 3 times. Let's look at a replay, because it's not just the side lanes. When this Cassio gets to a team fight, it is also destructive. And Yamada, you were kind of surprised. You're like, why is this so strong? I believe this is the Garen Yuumi, though.
This is the Garen Yuumi?
Yeah, we're going to switch it up to Cassio in a second.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that maybe going PTO and Vayne is not the best idea. I think if he goes Klepto, he can just like get so much free gold from Garen. Or even lethal tempo could be better. I think PTA is good against maybe squishy champs, but...
I do agree. It felt like the sentiment was not only the condemn aspect of nature of that Vayne into Yuumi Garen to push them away from you, but also just he thought he was going to get a free lane, so why not double up with the Klepto? And there you go.
Oh, there we go. It's, when Cassie was picked, she saw Aatrox, Sylas, Lulu, and Vayne. Those are 4 picks that Cassio just devours. Azir is a good one into Cassio because of the range disparity. We saw in lane phase that Cassio struggled a bit, but when you have a Yuumi on your side, you can kind of nullify that range advantage. He got a couple of kills, and Nemesis is proving to actually be a menace in the late game on Cassio.
Yeah, it felt like Splyce really honed in on trying to find kind of the favorable matchups, the Azir into Cassie, trying to use the unique pick of the Vayne into Garen Yuumi. But again, if you look at that holistic team comp, when are you ever going to be able to actually hit anyone as Vayne if you're running into the meat grinder of not only a Cassiopeia ultimate, but also the Yuumi ultimate on top of that? There was never going to be enough range outside of the Azir that Vayne was ever going to be able to hit anyone.
I have to sneeze. Could you continue talking?
Well, I will now play Xerxe here. We're going to look at this nice replay, and yeah.
We saw this replay already, right? I wanted to point out, I think Sylas jungle is a big myth. I think the only thing that you gain out of it is the fact that, for example, in the series against you guys, it was like, okay.
Did you just say myth?
Yeah, it's a big myth. It's like people really want to play it in the jungle, but I think the biggest thing was in your series, it was a denial. Akali you got the LeBlanc Akali matchup, that's cool. Here we had Azir into Cassio, that's cool. But Sylas jungle, in all these games that we've seen, both Xerxe play it and also Broxah play it, it just kind of does nothing. And during this entire time, while Nocturne was bullying the Aatrox up top, Sylas was just trying to clear his first 3 camps, has to base, gets an item, clearing his camps. It takes just too much time. And I think in the pace that we're playing at, I think Sylas is just too slow, and it's just like you're doing it for the draft, but I think junglers are just too crucial and important right now.
Yeah, the games move so quickly, and I actually really love that we've now seen repeatedly this Nocturne picked into things like the Sylas, because Nocturne's just thinking like, I'm going to get a free pass to level 6. And yeah, Sylas can turn that ultimate and use it himself, but you're making a draft then collectively with the Nocturne. Gangplank Nocturne, Splyce used it yesterday. It got used today by Fnatic. You see how cool that is because you don't even need kill lanes. Like you have a Garen Yuumi in your bot side. You don't expect that to have any kill set up for you. It's all about the poke. But because you have GP ultimate and Nocturne ultimate, it doesn't matter. You can just layer those in 2 lanes and any lane becomes a kill lane.
Yeah, it also looks like Fnatic is just too strong for Splyce at this moment. After break, we will cover the picks and bans, so we'll see what Splyce comes up with. But only 1 win is standing between Fnatic and a spot at the World's Group stage as 2nd seed. We'll be doing picks and bans right here for Game 3, so don't go anywhere.